It's great to welcome to the program today Congressman Greg Landsman, representing Ohio's first congressional district since 2023. So I want to start with something that is just, I want to understand the details of it. You were told that you were on the hit list
Yeah.
for the Minnesota assassin terrorist. I don't know what word exactly we're using at this point. Tell me about how are you notified about that? Who tells you? What do they say? What do you immediately do?
So Capitol Police called us on Sunday morning about 10:30 and said we were in the ridings. We got an email from our local folks who work really closely with the FBI, and it provided a little bit more detail that we were, in fact, on the hit list, whatever that means. We still don't really know. So Sunday sort of turned into, okay, let's lock in. We got local law enforcement involved. They're great. I was at City Hall for years, so I know a lot of these folks, and they had a car out here at the house immediately. And it was a little strange because, in a situation like this, they were doing, they were walking the house, the perimeter of the house every 20 to 30 minutes, which is very weird. And I sort of sent everyone away. So it was just me, just to be safe. And around 9 o'clock, none of this is funny. Just looking back, it makes me laugh. But I, the cop outside sent me a text and said, "Sir, can you please turn off your inside lights and turn on your outside lights?" And that was it. It was just so I get up, I turn all the lights out, I turn out the floodlights, and it just is an immediately strange and unnerving moment because you're just like, what is happening? And it was just precautionary. Nothing obviously happened. This man never left Minnesota, but for like 30 minutes, I wasn't sure. And of course I'm thinking, well, he's just told me to do that for precaution, but I don't know. And I don't really want to walk out there and ask him or even send a text. I'll just sort of hunker down. In any event, they caught him at 10:30, and we were relieved. Still don't know why we were on the list. I'm pretty outspoken. I'm also a Jewish member of Congress. It could be one or both of those things, or neither. We
Right.
just don't know.
What do you think about the broader environment that's been created where, some percentage of the current president's movement does see physical violence as a legitimate proxy to political activism? I'll just leave it there and sort of keep it
Yeah.
broad. I mean, it seems palpably different to me than where we were 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's 100% different. And I mean, look, we've always had contentious politics in America, and we've had periods of time where things got pretty bad, right? But this has been as bad as I've ever seen it in my lifetime, and I'm old enough to remember presidents that were really good at lifting the country up and bringing people together. It was just sort of core to who they were. I mean, that was sort of the essence of Biden. And that was what Barack Obama's superpower. Bill Clinton was good at it. I think George W. Bush, had his moments where he was really good at it. And so, it's not a Republican or Democratic thing. I think it is a Trump thing. And then the reaction to Trump, there are people on our side that I think go too far because he goats them into being less than who they really are.
I
So
want to, oh, no, go ahead. Yeah.
no, I'm optimistic in the sense that I do believe that these things happen. That there's a pendulum, and I believe it's very possible, not inevitable, possible. Certainly, if we all push for it, for the next set of leaders to be the opposite of this, to be convicted about what they're fighting for, and to fight for, and to work their tails off to get things done, but to do it in bipartisan, bring people together kinds of ways. And I think the country will take to that kind of leader. That's what we need.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I want to believe, and I do believe, that the percentage of the entire country that is willing to turn to this kind of violence is extraordinarily small. But when you have 340 million people in a country and you have a movement that is feeding them with de facto target lists, these are the groups that are causing you a problem, and these are the people that need to be dealt with. You don't need it to be a high percentage thing to wreak complete chaos over a country.
That's correct. And so, we're seeing that. I mean, I will say there's also, this rise of anti-Semitism, and it's the same thing. The vast majority of people who sort of, either oppose the war or don't like Bibi Netanyahu, or there's not a violent bone in their body. But when you have the kind of rhetoric of genocide and globalize the Intifada and these kinds of things, it will grab somebody who's unwell, and that leads to political violence. And so part of it is being very careful about our own rhetoric, and pushing for leaders that are good at bringing people together and fighting for what they believe in, but doing it in a way that does not spread disinformation or cause people to like go kill people. It also means that we have to like finally get serious about the social media stuff. And that means, Trump could bring all these people, these CEOs of the big tech companies into a room, like they're like his buddies now, right? And say, like, we're not doing this anymore. Get this crap off your social media platforms. Congress should do it. And the best way for Congress to do it is to simply eliminate the liability shield on these companies. The idea that you can't sue these companies or a gun manufacturer is insane. And that has to stop. And the third thing is, we have this in Cincinnati, an entity that just gets all of the data, does the analytics, provides really meaningful analysis, and gives that to law enforcement. So law enforcement can get in front of these threats. And we don't have that on Capitol Hill. That's something I'm going to push for, when I get back to DC this week.
Well, let me give you the counter to the to the dealing with the liability shield, because as someone who's an independent creator myself, the fear I have about eliminating that liability shield is that if that's done, platforms on which we get hundreds of millions of views a month, like YouTube, TikTok, and others, will say, you know what, David, we don't want to touch the type of thing you're doing. It's too risky for us now that there's no liability shield. And I and some of my colleagues worried that that would absolutely decimate independent media.
Well, I would take that very seriously. And work through how to do it. Don't you worry though that? Well, let me counter argument. Let me counter your counter.
Yeah.
Or just maybe ask a question, which is, don't they need you? I mean, like, aren't you the ones driving traffic to
The
their?
reality, unfortunately, is that the entire news and politics category is relatively tiny on these platforms. And so I think presented with the liability of what if I say something about Trump or whatever, I think that they would go, we're going to do away with news and politics. And they've even tested this at previous times, saying, if you talk about anything related to controversial issues, at one point, if you just talked about abortion or COVID or the Ukraine war, you were demonetized or limited. So I think they are so risk averse that it would be a real problem for us.
Fair enough. But it sounds like that's a larger issue of them, you guys just not having the power, to sort of push back.
Maybe so.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I can imagine some liability changes that do protect you all, and obviously, I want to protect free speech in general, like 100%.
Yep.
So, it's maybe just not lifting the whole thing, but it's also probably helping, the independent folks have the sort of, power they need in the marketplace, which is a larger, broader issue that Congress has to tackle and, to fix this economy. Not to go off on a tangent, but everyone hates this economy except for billionaires. They love this thing. And the only way you're going to fix it is if you fix the tax code so that you're rewarding hard work, not wealth, which is a fundamental change in our tax code. And you're dealing with corporate consolidation and returning power back to people and small businesses and creators. Like, these people have way too much power.
So let's talk about the tax part. I'm very interested in your thoughts on this. One of the big picture realities is whenever there's a discussion about let's raise the income tax rate on the very rich, very quickly we remember the very rich, for the most part, are not earning income that is taxed by those brackets. So then the conversation often shifts to a lot of the same ideas. A wealth tax, which in the current legal framework, I simply don't think it's legal. You could change the legal framework. I just don't think it currently would be plausible. Let's raise the capital gains rate to be equivalent to the income tax rate. The problem is you can just avoid selling any assets and then simply borrow against them, which is something that the very wealthy currently do. When you look at taxing assets like, fine works of art or whatever the case may be, there are logistical challenges and the infrastructure of now having to appraise those things. Does the government really want to be in the business? That the point I'm getting to is it can be a pretty difficult thing to actually raise the effective tax rate on the very, very, very rich. What specifically would you do to deal with this issue?
So a couple things. One is I think it's really important to start by saying most people need tax relief. So if working folks, middle class folks, farmers, small businesses, you provide them with the tax relief. Certainly, what's in this bill, like that's fine. You could probably go further, and I would. I mean, the child tax credit, the refundable earned income tax credit spread out over 12 months so that people are getting income each month so they can pay all their bills, even if you don't care about them, which I do. I care deeply about them and the success of them, their success and their children. It's good for children. We lifted so many people out of poverty because of the child tax credit.
Yeah.
They spend money in their local economies. That's good for economic growth. On the fixing the tax code at the top, you adjust the rate for the top wage earners and up. Right now it's at 37%. You can go back up to 39.2. I suspect if we went to 40, very few people would complain. And then the billionaire minimum tax, requiring people to pay their taxes on all their income and wealth. And the corporate tax rate, which went from 35 to 21%, could be adjusted back. I mean, this is, that money, for the most part, went up, not down. It didn't trickle down. It went to corporate investors.
But explain to me the second to last thing you said there. If you take a very wealthy person, you look at their income, it's often zero. It's literally zero in many cases. They get dividends. They sometimes sell pieces of stock. They've got bonus structure, deferred income. How when you say make sure you're capturing all their income, sometimes they have no income. So what do you do?
Well, I said income and wealth.
So you would do a wealth tax.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just
Yeah.
don't know that I just don't know from what I've read. I don't know that the current you'd have to change the law to do it. I guess the question is, are you willing to do that?
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, look, I want to be able to give people tax relief that need it, help
Mm-hmm.
them pay all their bills because they're working harder than they ever have, and they're having a hard time paying all their bills,
Yep.
and that's not sustainable growth. That does not help us grow an economy. And then I would like to get to a balanced budget. I want to stop this deficit spending. I think it's very bad for the country to have close to $40 trillion in debt. It's very, very bad. It's bad for the economy because we're borrowing a bunch of money, and that messes with rates. It's also just bad for the budget because we can't use that money for other things that would help grow the economy. It's terrible for national security. So I would like to see Democrats get really serious about debt reduction. And that means the last time we had a balanced budget was Bill Clinton in 1993, and that was in part because of tax fixes. I mean, he went after some spending, and Democrats should be okay with an across the board freeze or getting serious about waste, fraud, and abuse. But ultimately, I think that fixing the tax code and doing a wealth tax will give us the ability to invest in tax relief for people who need it, balance the budget, and get us to a place where we're building the infrastructure, the housing, investing in education that creates economic growth. And that's good for everyone, including the billionaires.
To do any of this, at some point, Democrats have to get back in power. So the last thing I want to ask you about is for 2026, I'm hearing a lot of really good criticisms of what Republicans are doing right now. I just don't know that they are doing really bad things is necessarily enough. What do you think Democrats should run on for the election that's now just a little over a year away?
We're going to fix the economy. It's fundamentally broken. It's been broken for decades. Sorry if we said otherwise, or others did. Oh, that things are fine. Look at unemployment. No, no, no. It's fundamentally broken because people are struggling to pay their bills, and it's a lot of people. So we're going to fix the economy by fixing the tax code, by going after corporate, by dealing with corporate consolidation, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to get serious about rebuilding again. Build, baby, build is my thing. Not to be, too funny, but like this is the abundance work that Ezra Klein and others have talked about, which is we are going to invest in infrastructure and housing, and we are going to cut the red tape and start building and making things happen again. And then the third is we are going to get serious about public safety. Democrats have to get serious about public safety. We're going to fix the economy for you, and we're going to keep you safe, and we're going to build stuff again. To me, those are the three most important things I've laid out in an op-ed that will hopefully get published sometime next month, because it's one of those things that it's better summer reading. But it essentially says Democrats need to lay out a complete vision for moving the country forward. We need to put our 10 bills. Republicans in 1994 were in a similar spot. They were kind of in the political wilderness, and they led with this Contract for America. So I lay out our 10 bills. And I just told you the top three. But I also believe that Democrats have to sort of regain trust with voters. And that's coming clean on saying, like, we should have done more on the border. We should have passed comprehensive immigration reform. We should have passed or fought harder for the fixes to the democracy, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, banning dark money, ending partisan gerrymandering. We should have been, honest about what was going on with Biden. I was one of the, few people who said he should step aside, and somebody who was very much saying we've got to deal with the border and immigration reform and fix the economy. So I think Democrats have to sort of own some of the things that maybe not call them mistakes, but where they're not where the vast majority of voters are. Because if you want to go do good work and you're a true progressive, you want to go help people. You have to win elections in order to do that.
All right, Congressman Greg Landsman, thanks so much for your time and your insights today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.